Coming up on this week's show, it's the Big RT Recap.
Welcome to the Big Gay Fiction Podcast, the show for readers and writers of gay romance fiction. If you can read it, write it, watch it, or listen to it, these two guys are going to talk about it. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Adams and Will Knaus.
Welcome to episode 83 of Jeff and Will's Big Gay Fiction Podcast. I'm Jeff from JeffAdamsWrites.com.
And as always, I'm Will from WillKnaus.com. This week's episode is sponsored in part by listeners just like you. We'll have more information on how you can help support the show in just a few minutes. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
Getting back in the saddle of podcast recording.
Yeah, we've been home not quite 24 hours yet from our Big RT week. Now, those who listened last week know that we were daunted, might be a good word, by the upcoming week. And I'd say we survived with flying colors.
Flying colors.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel good about the experience.
Yeah, it was a good time. And we'll be talking about it a lot coming up throughout the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Really quick writing updates. Somewhere on Mackinac came out last week. Two good reviews, I would say. I've seen nothing less than 3 stars, and I think 3 stars is a good thing. A lot of people seem to like how I blended the setting and the characters and used Somewhere in Time as the vehicle. I've gotten some really nice feedback on Twitter from a couple of people who actually live in Michigan, or it's their home state as well, and they liked how I represented it, which is good, because I kind of wanted to pay homage to the state a little bit. And so yeah, I'm pleased with how it came out. Please go pick it up if you'd like. There'll be a link in the show notes if you're interested. And it's at Dream Spinner Press.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Awesome.
Very pleased. And of course, from our own writing side, we attended... Our first 2 days at RT were spent attending a masterclass taught by Cherry Adair on plotting. That was fascinating. That was a great 2 days. Sherry's awesome. She teaches fantastically, has this really nicely structured way to consider plotting on multiple levels, using colorful sticky notes to kind of mark out everything from your hero to your heroine to your villain to your location to things you need to get across in the scene. It was really lots of things got clicking in my brain from that course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was your idea to take it when we were signing up for RT. What were your thoughts on it? Did you get what you wanted from it?
Yes. I said that if we were going to go to RT, that we definitely needed to do this. This is what I was primarily interested in experiencing. Cherry Adair's Masterclass is a 2-day class that Jeff just of course mentioned. The first day covers her post-it note method, and really it's Cherry's in-depth way of outlining using traditional 3-act structure, but she uses different color post-it notes to designate different things that happen in each scene of her book. One color is going to signify the heroine, one color will signify the hero, another color is going to mention their backstory, different color post-it's going to be certain goals that need to be achieved in each scene, and she puts them all up on her plotting board, and she plots out the entire book in depth so that when it comes time to sit down and write, she can blast through it super fast because she knows exactly what's going to happen and she understands her characters intimately, and it makes for a much smoother, quicker, and pleasant first draft experience. So the bulk of day 1 was about the post-it note method, which I'd heard about before, and I was interested in how she achieved that. So we learned that on day 1, and then on day 2, she focused on different aspects of writing. We covered things about characterization,
backstory,
how important
dialogue.
backstory is. Yeah. So it was a whole lot of fun. I think everyone in the class got a lot out of it. And Cherry is Spitfire. She's She's smart, and she's kind, and she's sassy, and she's extremely passionate about writing and paying it forward and making sure that new writers have all the information they need to write the best book possible and then market that book in the best way to position it in the market. She's really fantastic. If you ever have a chance to take one of her classes or see her speak in person, I highly recommend it.
If you're doing the master class and you're learning the plotting method, don't wear purple. Purple, turns out, is the villain color, and I was in purple the first day. So, yeah, don't do that. Wear another color if you don't want to be the villain. If you want to be the villain, that's fine, but just be advised, purple equals villain.
Exactly. Also part of the master class was a one-on-one session with Cherry, where you got to sit down with her and talk about the specifics of whatever project you are working on at the time. We scheduled our one-on-one time with Cherry for Friday afternoon, and we sat down in the lobby of the Hyatt, and we hashed out a bunch of motivation and characterization problems we were having with the first draft of our co-writing project. Sherry's amazing. I mean, all she wanted, she didn't want like an outline or a synopsis or any in-depth stuff. She just said, okay, who are your characters? What are they doing? And then bam, off we went. She is just a fountain of inspiration, and she just sat there with us for an hour and brainstormed different scenarios, different things that we could work with and tweak in our book, making the story just that much stronger. Pretty remarkable. I had a blast.
I think we came with being able to ask the right questions, because going through the class and then talking the couple of days after the class to get ready for that meeting, we kind of knew where our problems were.
Yeah.
And we could go and say, here's our story, here's where we think the issues are, and then brainstorm with her to fix it, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The villain work also, outside of my romance writing, I think is going to help a lot with my YA stuff. Understanding how to seed the villain through the 3-act structure, and giving them more and more motivation to really make them bad people. Amp up my villains a little bit in the YA. So I think that's going to be an additional, something I got from that course as well. So it was an awesome time, and I really enjoyed the sit down time with her.
Yeah.
I hope we make her proud with the final book.
I hope so too. I can't wait to sit down and start working on the manuscript.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. Also, quickly, we want to give a huge thanks to everyone who participated in Tammy Middleton's Autism Awareness Month auction. She raised more than $4,000 for the charities that she was working with.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Congratulations to Tammy. And again, thanks to everybody who went and bid on some goodies there. Another auction that we mentioned in last week's episode is now underway. The Readers and Writers for LGBT Chechens is now underway and running until Saturday, May 13th at noon Central Time. That's U.S. Central Time. Included in the items up for bid are signed books from Damon Suede, P.D. Singer, Amy Tasukeda, I hope I pronounced your name right because you're such a friend of the podcast, Jillian St. Curvin, Cage Harper, Kim Fielding, Morticia Knight, Jordan L. Hawk, and many more. You can get details and bid at Readers and Writers for LGBTChechens.wordpress.com, or check the show notes of this episode for a more direct link to that. It's an important cause to raise money for these charities to help these men in Chechnya who are being taken from their families and killed simply for being gay. So we hope you can give some much-needed funds to these auctions and help those charities out.
Yes. Also, we want to thank our newest patrons. Patrons of the podcast are always appreciated.
Absolutely.
This week we have Lindsay, Sarah, and Andrea.
It's actually Lindey. Truly. Sorry, but it's true.
Let me try that one more time. A very big thank you to our newest patrons, Lindey, Sarah, and Andrea. However you guys say your names, I'm so sorry.
And we do love you to pieces.
We do appreciate you, I swear. You can help support the Big Gay Fiction Podcast with a monthly pledge through Patreon. For less than the price of a coffee a month, your pledge helps pay the cost of producing and distributing this show. Now, for fans who pledge at the silver and gold levels, we'll have the exclusive opportunity to ask questions of our upcoming guest.
And there are some good ones coming.
Uh-huh.
Good ones. And you can find the post all about them on Patreon.
Yes. So you can get the details on becoming a patron at patreon.com/Big Gay Fiction Podcast.
In Somewhere on Mackinac by Jeff Adams, Jordan Monroe travels to Mackinac Island for the Somewhere in Time fan celebration weekend. Once there, he becomes attracted to local stable owner Miles Coulter. When Jordan learns the stable's in trouble, he wants to help despite Miles's resistance. As their relationship grows, he dreads the issues that face them. Can they forge a love as timeless as the romance in their favorite film? Find out in Somewhere on Mackinac by Jeff Adams. Available from DreamSpinnerPress.com, Amazon.com, and other ebook retailers. So before we get back into the big RT wrap-up, I got a couple books to review. Because I finished one on the trip and finished another while we were recording the 2 episodes previously. So first up is At the Edge of the Universe by Shaun David Hutchinson. I picked this up primarily because of the cover. Something about this cover just was like, pick me up and look at me when I saw it in the bookstore. And it's an interesting YA. The blurb really drew me into it because of what it says is Tommy and Ozzy have been best friends since the 2nd grade, boyfriends since the 8th grade. They spent countless days dreaming of escaping their small town, and then Tommy vanished. But the secret there is he ceased to exist, erased from the minds of everybody that knew him except Ozzy. What does that even mean? So I had to buy the book and figure that out. This book was such a page-turner as Ozzy is trying to figure out where exactly Tommy is gone and why it is he is the only person who remembers him. And what he discovers shortly after the book begins is not only is Tommy missing, but the entire universe is shrinking. And it shrinks throughout the run of the book. Each chapter header is not chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It's the number of light years across the universe is, and you watch it shrinking chapter by chapter by chapter because of the nomenclature, the chapter titles. It makes for a very compelling and page-turning book as you're trying to figure out what exactly is happening in Ozzy's world. And where I have a difficulty with this book, and yet I still recommend it because it was such an amazing read, is I couldn't figure out at the end what I was supposed to take away from it. I know exactly what happened at the end, and I'm not going to spoil it for those who do read it, but I'm like, I don't quite know what I'm supposed to take away from this, other than the fact that I had a wonderful time reading this book. Because not only is Ozzy trying to figure out what's going on, he's still trying to be a teenager, too. He's got a best friend who is gender fluid, which was a great character type to read in a YA book. And his friend is on the cusp of becoming a big rock star as they graduate high school. He has to deal with bullies, as can happen in high school. He's got to deal with his physics project, which is making a roller coaster. It's a great book. It's a fun book. If you read it and you understand the end, let me know. Because I would like some clarity there, perhaps, or at least a discussion on it. What it reminded me of, too, is there's a Star Trek The Next Generation episode where Dr. Crusher is somehow sucked into a science project that Wesley has, and she perceives herself on the Enterprise, but people are disappearing, and they're like, I don't know who Commander Riker is. What are you talking about? And eventually the Enterprise shrinks away to nothingness. Don't know, but that was what it reminded me of. Good book, check it out. And then I read, because, Will is on top of the people who've given this a great review, I have now also read The Social Scoundrel by Sebastian. Oh my god, it's awesome. I mean, Jay saying it was awesome, and you saying it's awesome. Of course, it's awesome, but I loved the mystery aspect of it, trying to sort out, the case that Jack and Oliver were on. I loved that very historical sex, because Kat does write some really good sex between these two. And I like how it evolved from their tentative first goings of, oh my god, we really shouldn't do this, to, we're going to do this anyway, and we're going to enjoy it. So yeah, I'm not going to go into a lot of backstory on this book, because Will covered it all back in episode 82, but I also am very much on the Cat Sebastian bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
Written reviews for both of these are up at jeffandwill.com.
Fantastic.
So, shall we show off our prize for the people who are on the video feed, as we transition back to our RT discussion?
Yes. The short but sweet review of our RT experience is that we enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
We probably should have mentioned at the top of the show that it is this episode is 100% us talking about our Romantic Times Booklovers Convention adventure.
I think we kind of covered that up front when we said it was the big RT recap episode.
So, yeah, short and sweet. We loved it, and that's it. No,
we're done now? Okay, bye.
I'm kidding. That's not it. We're gonna go into a little bit of detail and break down what we did exactly. First off is the RT swag bag. Now, whenever you attend RT, you get a bag when you sign in, and it's got a bunch of awesome swag and some free books. And since there were two of us and we don't need two exact copies, we wanted to give one of our swag bags to you, our valued listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So, here is what is in the RT swag bag for 2017. First off, you get this really gorgeous black, white, and red tote. Shayla Black and Sylvia Day were this year's sponsoring authors. It's a really big, awesome, hefty tote bag. It's got lots of cool pockets, lots of places to stow things. Ladies, it could make a really ginormous purse. You could shove a whole lot of crap in here.
Or take it on the beach for your summer getaway.
Exactly. So you're going to get the tote bag, and it's going to be filled with books. First off, in our giveaway pack, we're going to give you Forgotten Paradise by Shira Anthony. I talked about this book not too long ago. Loved it to pieces. Janet Ivanovich's latest paperback, Curious Minds. Also, we're going to include this guy right here, Jeff Adams' paperback copy of Flipping for Him. We have a copy of Jessica Freely's All the Colors of Love. Also, we have L.A. Witt's If the Seas Catch Fire. Also included is BCC, a lesbian romance written by L.A. Witt as well, under her pen name Lauren Gallagher. So this bag is chock full of awesome reads and a whole bunch of swag. There's like pins, the writing kind and the cute little promotional button kinds that you wear. There's bookmarks and postcards and all sorts of cute little tchotchke type stuff. The bag is basically filled to the brim with all sorts of great stuff that you are going to want. So, sir, fill them in on the Rafflecopter for this week.
Yes, there is a Rafflecopter on the show notes for episode 83, in which you can enter to win this snazzy bag over there. We'll have a way for you to, of course, get your default entry, and then there'll be a couple ways we'll put in there so that you can get your daily entries as well. The Rafflecopter will only run for 1 week, so you only have until Sunday. That might be May 14th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time to get your entries in. This will ship to U.S. and Canada only.
Yes. So be sure to check out BigAFictionPodcast.com for the Rafflecopter on this particular episode. And remember, you only have 7 days. That is May 14th. So get your entries in before then.
Yes. And just to wrap up, little tangent, the Paul Richmond Rafflecopter is wrapping up as we're recording this episode, so We'll let you know who wins that in episode 84 next week.
Fantastic.
So let's talk about our RT experience.
Yes, let's.
Now, we've already told you we had a great time, which we did, and you know from last episode, we were trepidatious, to say the least. And while it is ginormous, And if you saw some of our pictures on Facebook across the week, you saw some of the ginormous crowds at some of these events that happened, and some of the gigantic queue lines that formed as people waited to get into said events. Even with that, all the people, it was tremendous. It really was. And Cherry Adair's workshop was just the beginning of it for us.
Yeah. So, let me say this. We talked to some previous RT veterans who mentioned how much they enjoyed this year's conference, and how this year is slightly smaller than previous years. Essentially, the conference sort of fluctuates depending upon the location. This year was a little more intimate than years past. The Atlanta hotel, the Hyatt, was it the Hyatt in downtown?
Yes, the Hyatt downtown.
Was well appointed. We loved our rooms. We loved the hotel. The easy access to basically a mall filled with any kind of food you could ever need. And there were 3 floors of convention space that
it kept everything really close at hand. Our understanding from people who went to Vegas last year was that you had to walk 2,000 miles to get to the exhibit space from the hotel, and there was really no easy gathering point either. Here, the lobby of the hotel was a pretty vibrant gathering space.
Yeah, it
from
was.
about 6 in the morning, because I was downstairs at 6 each morning getting coffee and doing some writing or doing some administrative work on some stuff. And the lobby started to come to life as people were working out or meeting for breakfast or whatever. And it stayed that way through the night. And then the 3 floors below the lobby was Convention Central.
Yes, and I think the 3 floors gave everyone some breathing room. Instead of like one single convention space that everyone sort of jammed into, there were 3 different floors kind of spacing things out. It took a little getting used to at first, knowing where to go and when, but we figured it out by the end. It wasn't a problem. So we really enjoyed the location. Up front, we wanted to say that. Really well chosen by the committee at RT. Thank you for that. And let's start with our travel to Atlanta. Our travel was rather nice. We did get upgraded thanks to Jeff's points.
Yeah, my jet-setting ways paid off in a nice way. What didn't work so well with the travel is that our luggage initially did not make the San Francisco to Atlanta trip with us. So on Monday, we were left in the same clothes we were wearing on Sunday.
Yay!
Yeah, which is not the best way to start the week. But.
No, but our bag eventually did show up. So we had all of our clothes and all of our supplies that we were going to need for the week ahead.
Yes.
So, Tuesday night after class, we went and experienced Damon Swade's Cinema Craptastique.
That was awesome.
Cinema Craptastique is an annual event hosted by what's a good word to describe Damon?
The force of nature.
That's it, exactly. Hosted by Damon Swade. Several other authors kind of run the event with him. Essentially, he shows a movie and then comments on it, sort of MST style. This year's movie was the Mariah Carey classic, Glitter. So, yeah, it was a unique, amazing experience.
Yeah, you may have noticed if you were at all looking at the podcast Twitter feed Monday night, we were playing along a little bit with what he was doing with Cinema Craptastic. It's pretty amazing that trends worldwide. That it's got a following of people who, if they're not at RT, will tune into Twitter using the RTCC hashtag and follow along. They'll even run the movie because the Twitter audience in the auditorium will say when to start and to stop the movie so that they can kind of keep up. There was somebody in the audience, there's a prize that gets given out at the end for whoever tweets the most during the movie. I don't think we were more than about 30 minutes in, maybe 45, and somebody had already managed to tweet 230-something times. It was mind-blowing.
Crazy.
But if you ever get the chance to see Damon do Cinema Craptastique, he does them at Coastal Magic, which is where he does the tryout each year for what he does at RT, and then he'll do it again at RT. You really need to go, because it is a hoot.
We didn't make it all the way through Glitter. We called it quits kind of early in preparation for the first full day of the convention on Wednesday.
Yeah, we went to the opening breakfast and saw all of the opening speeches and things, which were really, really good to hear since we'd never been before. And then we moved on to a marketing panel that was hosted by Dreamspinner's marketing director and friend of the podcast, Poppy Dennison, along with Tara Lane. Well, I say we attended. I actually ended up playing bouncer to this event because it got overfull really fast. They were still about 15 minutes from starting, and the hotel security was there going, "You can't have this many people in the room. You people need to get out." And so I was positioned outside the door, handing out Poppy's business cards, letting people know that they could get the presentation from her if they just email. It was pretty insane. It was also the moment we shot our first video for the event. Poppy initially kicked out all the authors that she already knew or worked with closely. So out in the hallway at what they called the tent city, were folks like Mary Calmay and Shaun Michael and who else was out there?
Jay was there.
Joyfully Jay was out there.
A whole bunch of people.
And so we just did a little video that you can catch on our Facebook page of these people who had been kicked out on the first day of RT from a presentation. It was pretty hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we went to the Hot New Trends in Publishing panel. That included Sarah Wendell from Smart Bitches Trashy Books, Eliza Petruzzi, Carolyn Robertson, and a couple of others.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was nice to hear Sarah's perception on things from her position as a blogger and podcaster.
Yeah.
Eliza is editor with the Romantic Times website, so her take on what she sees was fascinating also. And then Carolyn Robertson is from BookBub. And so those three, along with the others on the panel, all had an interesting perspective. Paranormal seems to be on its way out. Gothic seems to be on the rise. New adult seems to be kind of plateauing a little bit. But there's different data points, too, because RT is seeing certain things in the books that they're receiving to review. And in some cases, BookBub is still seeing high traction on its mailing lists for certain things as well. Mm-hmm. So it was a fascinating hour that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a really good panel.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think one of our highlights of this whole thing was that we fanboyed over Mark Lefebvre from Kobo Writing Life. Now, we got to know Mark initially because of the Creative Pen podcast. Kobo Writing Life is a sponsor of Joanna's show. Mark Lefebvre is often on doing the ad reads, but he's been on Joanna's show a few times and some other podcasts that we listen to, talking about his take on self-publishing from his perch as the director of Kobo Writing Life and also director of author relations for Kobo. And we're standing in the lobby of the hotel. It's like, oh my God, it's Mark Lefebvre over there. And we introduced ourselves, ended up had a lovely conversation with him about the industry and some of his writing journey, and we talked about our stuff. And he asked us to go on a quick Facebook Live with him for Kobo Writing Life. And that was pretty epic as well.
Yeah. So fun. And, he's Canadian, so he's super duper nice.
Yeah. It was very cool getting to know him. And we went to a couple of his panels. I had the honor of bailing him out on one of the panels later. I think it was on Thursday because he didn't have an HDMI cable on him. And so I had to run the gauntlet from the very bottom of the convention center down on LL3 up to our room on 10 to fetch the HDMI cable and get back with 13 minutes to go. And the one issue, if you could truly call it an issue with the hotel, was that the number of elevators they had available couldn't quite cope with the capacity of people trying to use them at any given time. Mm-hmm. So while it may sound easy to traverse 13 floors in 13 minutes, it's not as easy as it sounds.
So, yes, your nerdish tendencies got you in good with the Grand Poobah over at Kobo, which is not a bad thing at all.
Not at all.
So, let's see, what else did we do? You went to a panel advertising on a budget.
Yeah, which dovetails right in there with what I'm trying to learn about Facebook ads in general. Mm-hmm. And this didn't delve too deeply on Facebook, but it looked at some other avenues to get some either free or low-cost advertising. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of notes from that I'll be trying to implement over the coming, weeks and months as I try to figure out my target audiences.
Mm-hmm. So while Jeff went to that advertising panel, I went to a panel about alpha male characters. And sitting on that particular panel were authors Sarah Humphreys, Rebecca Zanetti, Cherry Adair, and Stella Barcelona. And basically they talked about their favorite types of heroes and some of the alpha men that they've written into their various books. It was a lot of fun. They gave away some great prizes. I won a book from Cherry. So, yeah, it was a good time was had by all in that panel.
And I want to read one of her books.
Yes.
Because they sound fun going through the jungles and stuff.
Yeah, she writes wild, crazy action romances. So yeah, it piqued my interest. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and after that, we came back together to go to Holding Out for a Hero. This is a panel that you could actually see live streamed via our Facebook page because there's a Facebook group out there called I believe it's called Holding Out for a Hero. And they actually brought this panel together and live streamed it, so we shared it over to our audience. This was really fun. It was Serena Bowen, and you guys know, if you've been around this podcast for more than a few minutes, that I'm a huge Serena Bowen fan, so of course I turned up where she was. Kristen Ashley and Lorianne Heath were also there, and they each took a hero from one of their books that they deemed as their classic hero, the one they keep getting asked about over and over and over again, mm-hmm. and talked about that character's origin story, how they create series around them, and why they think these heroes in particular were so successful for them. It was a really good panel to hear, and of course, Serena was there, and I actually got to meet her in person for the first time. We'd shared Skype screens before for the podcast, but to meet in person was fun. She signed my books, and got a picture with her, and I totally fanboyed there for a few minutes because it was awesome.
And if you're watching the live stream and the lights suddenly go out in the room, that was my that was my coordinated husband Jeff. We were standing in the back of the room, and Jeff happened to lean onto the light switch, and everyone freaked out for half a second.
Yeah, like, no, just me. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's the two guys in the back of the room.
Ugh, okay. Okay, so yeah, we made an impression. That's for sure.
Yeah, we certainly did. We tried to go to City Chicks, Southern Belles, and Bad Boys after that, but that was a touch too crowded for our taste.
Yeah. Very, very crowded.
Yeah, we walked in and went, oh, okay. Let's not do this.
Yeah, so we kind of skipped that particular event.
Yeah. I did enjoy the dinners and such that we had. We got to hang out with people that we, either only see on Facebook or maybe have on the podcast or something. Monday we got to sit down with Brandolyn and William and Wade Kelly and Jay.
Yeah.
So we had two bloggers. Well, Brandolyn's now a former blogger, but still a contributor to our show. William is a PA to many authors. So he was there helping out as well. Wednesday night we got to go out with Tara Lane and Wade Kelly again and Casey Byrne. And our fabulous friend Kayla. Kayla, who was evil and turned us on to the idea of cheesecake cupcakes because she lives in Atlanta, and that's where this particular... she goes to Atlanta a lot because of Dragon Con. And she discovered this place. Mm-hmm. And, oh my God.
Yeah. Pretty yummy. So that was our Wednesday. Before we continue with Thursday and Friday's activities, I want to express and point out that Archie has a little bit of something for everybody. It is a huge event. meant primarily for readers. And over the course of essentially an entire week, there is just a crap ton of programming that goes on. There are tracks for writers, there are panels for readers, there are pop-up signings, there are meet and greets, there are parties sponsored by publishers where they hand out, tons and tons of books. There are the really big, ginormous themed costume parties. It just an amazing array of things to do throughout the week. And the things that we're highlighting are the things that we chose out of the huge assortment of things that you can do at RT. So that it's what we're talking about expresses our particular interests. If you're a reader only, there are just a ton of different panels given by popular authors. There are parties. There are game panels, essentially. If you're a reader and a seasoned RT goer, you can make out like a bandit.
Yeah.
There are women who come home from the conference with multiple humongous pieces of luggage packed to the brim with books. If you play your cards right, you can go to these various events, most of them sponsored by the publishers themselves, and you get to meet all of your favorite authors. You can play games and win ginormous, a crazy assortment of prizes and gift baskets and yeah. So
it's insane. There was somebody on the elevator, I think it was Friday, who had the bellman pushing the cart, and they had like 6 bags along the top bar where you would normally hang hanging bag, like a hanging clothing bag. 6 tote bags, about the size of the RT bag we showed you at the earlier, and clearly they'd made out pretty well.
Yeah.
And Will's right with what we're talking about here. In each hour of the day, from about 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock, there are probably between 10 and 15 things to choose from each hour to go to. When we were trying to sort our schedules out, we would sit down, like on Tuesday night, we would sit down to plan where we were going to be on Wednesday. And I think the way that we planned it helped us not make it overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Because we knew our plan for the day. We might have 2 or 3 things that we might choose in an hour, and at the last minute go, we're going to that. Yeah. But we weren't having to make a choice on the fly of 15 things either, and I think that helped keep it under control and make it doable for us.
Yeah. So I think RT can be experienced by anyone, no matter what your personal level of comfort is with large crowds. I am pretty much a hardcore introvert, and I was pretty worried going into this, as you may recall from last week's episode. But I was able to manage perfectly fine, and I only had to do the things that I was interested in. So whether if you're skittish and a little shy and it's your very first RT, you can, go at your own pace, do your own thing. Or if you've gone, several years in a row and you're an old pro and you know where to go when to get all the best stuff, you can do that too. And you can go from like morning to midnight, partying and gathering up armloads of books. There's literally something for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very true. Looking at our Thursday, we kicked off the day going to a newsletter panel with Sarah Wendell, again from Smart Bitches, and Mel Jolly, who is an author's assistant but also runs Authors RX, which I need to sign up for, by the way, because I want her tips, because she and Sarah gave some tremendous tips on newsletter, which kind of revitalized the way I think of my own author newsletter, which was pretty great. After that was the one reader event that I took part in, Dreamspinner's Apples to Apples, which was a hoot. It's essentially a clean version of Cards Against Humanity, which I have to say I've never played. But essentially, the authors would give a word, and then the readers had to pair other words against it. I made it clear up front, after getting 2 cards that had spider-related answers on it, that nobody who put a spider card into my hand to pick from was going to win. Wasn't going to happen. But that was fun. We gave away a lot of spiffy swag to our readers, and readers came away with some pretty awesome Dream Spinner stuff as well. So I enjoyed that quite a lot.
Yeah. So while Jeff took part in the Apples to Apples event, large groups of people and playing games isn't exactly my thing. So while Jeff was doing that, I went downstairs and sat in on the Harlequin Carina Press spotlight, and they had several of their main editors on the panel talking about what's coming up, certain trends and what they're looking for. So that was nice. That was fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then we ran into Mark Lefay from Kobo again. This was the panel I bailed him out on because I had the cable. The Maximize Your Author Earnings was a good panel. I didn't get to stay for all of it because we had to go set ourselves up for the social media fair. But I enjoyed kind of his lay of the land and his thinking about Wide versus Amazon and what it can mean to be in a place like Kobo, especially for global presence, and how that can increase your positioning in the worldwide marketplace, rather than just thinking about Amazon in the U.S. Yeah. And we did catch Z.A. Maxfield and Tara Lane in a pop-up signing.
Yes.
Pop-up signings are pretty cool. They crop up during the day, and suddenly, boom, there's some authors out there signing books and giving things away. Yeah. And we love Zam and we love Tara, so we were happy to stand. We caught it early, so we got to stand in the line before it got crazy town.
Too crazy, yeah.
and got a couple things. I have to say that both Zam and Serena, because I think we were talking as they were signing. I now have books signed by these 2 authors using their actual real names, which I knew Zam's. I did not know Serena's before. And they're like, I'm so sorry. And it's like, that's okay. That makes that book an extreme collector's item that I will never give away. And then we went on to Social Media Fair, where we were sitting at a table for an hour talking about podcasting. They had several stations here for authors to come talk about things like newsletters and using Facebook Live and using Instagram and using Twitter and various social media aspects to promote yourself as an author, and also to understand how to promote in a way that you're not always promoting. As Poppy from Dreamspinner often says about things like Facebook and Twitter, it's about, for every one time you might talk about your book, you need to spend 5 or 6 times talking about your cat, the weather, the food you're eating, the music you're listening to, the thing you're watching on TV, or whatever else it is, so that you're not just always promote. I had a good time with that. And we met some great people. We met a couple of folks from Bold Strokes Books. You may have seen the video where we had a quick conversation with a couple of the people from Bold Strokes talking about their RT experience, the panel that they had done on lesbian romance, and the readings that they were doing in Atlanta on Friday night, which I'm sad to say we didn't get to, but we thought about it if that counts. And we hope to have some folks from Bold Strokes on the show here to talk more about that in the future.
We got to talk to briefly some people who stopped by our table and basically say how much they enjoyed the show.
I was surprised to find out how many people just say, "Oh, you're the podcasting guys." It's like, well, yes, we are. Thank you. And that was even occasionally before we were sitting at the podcast table. So that was cool to know that our reach extends, I think, beyond where we thought it would.
Yeah, I was pleasantly. I didn't go into this with any expectations that anyone would have any idea who the hell we were. But I was pleasantly surprised that there were some people who knew who Jeff and Will were, and were fans of the show and had watched. So that made me very, very happy.
Yeah, that was very cool. Again, we stuck our head in the Kensington Peaches and Cream Party, because there was at least one author there that we thought we might say hello to, until that became a sea of people. In fact, we had separated for a moment, and I ended up in the room first, and I stood where Will could see me when he walked in, because I'm like, we could just turn around and go back out, because that was like standing room only, packed to the gills. It's like, no. Yeah. But I did... We had dinner with Sarah York that night, which was awesome, because we hadn't seen Sarah in
a long
probably
time.
A couple of years.
Yeah, a long time.
So it was awesome catching up with her. And then I took one step downstairs for the Spec Ops Spice and Speakeasy Roaring Twenties party. Before the party even opened its doors, I went down just to catch Heidi Cullinan and Jordan Hawk in line, because they cosplayed Victor and Yuri from Yuri on Ice at the Roaring Twenties party. They were coming up with a story that they wanted. They time traveled back to get some skating moves from the 20s to bring forward into a Yuri program. It was awesome. And I loved... They looked great.
Yeah.
I totally enjoyed that. Friday. Friday was a little less busy, I think, for us. Mm-hmm. The panels were spread out a little bit more. We deliberately left ourselves space for lunch. And then we also had our meeting with Sherry in the afternoon as well.
Yes.
That kind of curtailed some of our normal activity. We did go to a panel in the morning called Digital DIY Pros and Cons of Self-Publishing, which had Mark LaFay from Kobo and also Mark Coker from Smashwords, giving some of the lay of the land, talking about like how subscription models were playing into things, how Amazon, their place in the market, and where Smashwords and Kobo kind of feed into that for authors to think about. It was an interesting panel, and it was nice to hear from them together on where things are. And then we had to go do our panel.
Yes, we gave the most boring and unimaginatively titled presentation in all of RT. We did our panel, Podcasting 101. And how did it go?
I think it went really well. We had a room that we know seated 80.
Yes.
And I don't know an official count, but I feel like we had half that room full.
Mm-hmm.
We had a very engaged audience, which was awesome. People were sitting there taking notes, even though we told them they could download that presentation. They were still taking notes. They were asking questions from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we presented well.
If we don't say so ourselves.
Well, I felt like coming off of Dream Spinner's author workshop where we piloted this out, I felt like our presentation was a little clunky. And
to put it mildly.
And we came home and we adjusted some portions of it. But not only did we adjust some of the content, but we adjusted our presentation style, and I think it worked.
Yes, I agree.
And again, here, the number of people that came up to us afterwards to talk to us, to get some more information, because either they wanted to be guests, or they wanted to start their own shows, or just to say hi, thank you for doing this, and some nice Facebook feedback, too. It seemed like something that at least had a place there for people to think about it.
Yeah. Thank you. If anyone who is listening right now actually went to this panel, first of all, thank you very much. Thank you for being a terrific audience. Like I said earlier, I didn't really go into this with any, grand expectations. Frankly, I don't think either one of us really knew what to expect.
We were hoping just one person would show up.
At least one person would show up, maybe. But we had a room half filled which I am incredibly grateful for. That's not a loss in our minds at all.
No.
We had a room of about 40 people who seemed really interested and engaged. They asked some great questions. I think the panel went really, really well. I'm super... I can't say anything more than I'm just really happy with how it went.
Yeah. And I'll say to our audience, whether you went to RT or not, if you do want our Podcasting 101 presentation, it is available at biggayfictionpodcast.com/podcasting101. And it'll just live on the site forever, and it does have tips and tricks for being a guest and starting a show, and we make it available to whoever wants it now that it's out there.
Mm-hmm. So once we got our panel out of the way, successfully done, we went and had lunch with an author friend of ours, Casey Wells.
We love Casey. I'd been having coffee with Casey every morning since I think Tuesday.
Pretty much.
Because she flew over from the UK, so there were her first days in the States. Of course, she's transitioning to being on Eastern time instead of UK time, so she was up early anyway, and I get up early, and we met down for coffee several times and watched the pretty man get his coffee. There were cover models everywhere. Beautiful men abound, especially on Friday. But there was this one named Stuart who we'd seen from day one, and KC was finally in line with him, next to him on Friday, getting her coffee and talked to him. Found out that he actually grew up pretty near where she lives in the UK, and I ended up and got to talk with him for a few minutes. So not only is he pretty, he's got an accent. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, we got to hang out with KC, which was groovy. I think she is one of our very favorite people.
Most definitely. After we had lunch, we went to the Smashwords 2017 survey that was given by Mark from Smashwords. It was... well, I don't know why I'm hesitating here. It was chock full, literally chock full of information about the state of publishing, primarily self-publishing.
I need to poke around and see if he's making that deck available for consumption. I snapped a few pictures of slides. I was particularly interested to see that very high ranking of LGBT fiction in some of his slides. In some places, this was regarding specifically pre-orders, if I remember correctly, that LGBT fiction places high on successful pre-orders, ahead of even romance, which was like at 25% for pre-order purchases. So I need to dig more into that before I try to speak to it in any cognitive way on the show, but I was interested in that, and some other data that he threw out was just fascinating. That any authors should definitely try to get a hold of that deck if it's available.
I think it should be, if it's not available now, it should be soon. I think he unveiled the 2017 survey specifically here at RT. So, yeah, it was basically, he was supposed to do it for an hour, and it ended up running about 90 minutes, just because there was so much information to geek out over, and people were asking questions.
Yeah. And people were geeking out. There were very few people that left, and I suspect of the people that left is because they had to be somewhere else.
Yeah. So
that was really the end of our panels for RT was that one, and on a very high note. And then we got to close out with dinner with Poppy Dennison and A.B. DiMartino, who we love. She turns up at a lot of events, and Charlie Cochet and Sue Kellett.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I really enjoyed the dinners. We don't always go out to dinners when we're doing conventions, and I'm glad most days we got out and dinnered with somebody. But yeah, it was tremendous. I would do RT again in a heartbeat. I really liked especially the ability to learn so much. There were times to network and times to see readers.
Definitely.
And there were times to get in there and learn stuff. And we don't get that. No dig on GRL at all, but that's not what GRL is. There's no learning there, and I like that there's learning here.
Yeah. Like I said before, something for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a pretty remarkable event. and I really had a lot of fun. I think we know ourselves pretty well, and we paced ourselves. We stayed hydrated. We stayed on task and went and saw the things that we were specifically interested in. And it was a really wonderful experience.
But I don't think we cheated ourselves out of ad hoc moments.
No, not at all.
I know we skipped something, and I don't know what it is anymore, but we didn't go somewhere we had tagged in our agenda because we met Mark from Kobo.
Yeah.
But that was a totally great ad hoc moment that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't been at RT. We should mention that Friday did not end RT. Saturday, there was the huge book signing with like 500 authors signing books and greeting fans, and Dream Spinners sponsored the Fantastic Day event, I believe was what it's called. So there were things going on Saturday, and even on Sunday, as we're recording this, the RT signing, the YA signing is happening as well. So I'm a mix of disappointed that we left yesterday and didn't stay for the signing. Not so much. I didn't want to sign. I didn't think I had a reason to sign this year, but I would have definitely seen some authors. I know Elle Kennedy showed up at one point, and I would have totally geeked out to meet her and have her sign the 2 books that Serena signed earlier.
Yeah.
But, maybe next year, maybe 2019 or 18 or something like that.
Now, we didn't get to, we didn't really do any live broadcasting from the event. Was your talk with the ladies from Bold Strokes, did you do that on Facebook Live?
Did not do it live. I recorded it and then uploaded it because the Wi-Fi down in the convention levels was more sketchy.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't want to do a live and then either have the audio skip out, which can happen, or it'd be stupid.
Yeah.
But do go. There's a lot of photos. There's 2 videos that we put up, plus the live stream of the Holding Out for a Hero panel is all on Facebook.com/Big Gay Fiction Podcast, and you can scroll back in the timeline and see that stuff. And I'm going to try and consolidate it into a RT album before the show goes out. So if I'm successful on that, you'll find that link in the show notes. Depends on how much Facebook likes me today.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think we've recapped the RT-ness now.
Whew.
Want to hang out with us between shows? Check us out on Facebook. You never know what we might post. News about book sales, bonus video content, and maybe even a live broadcast or 2. Like us today at facebook.com/Big Gay Fiction Podcast and see what we get up to next.
So, wow, we filled the whole show just on our own. We've not done that in a while.
Yeah, hopefully you're not too tired of us. Once again, before we close things out, be sure to go to biggayfictionpodcast.com and check on the link for this week's episode for the Rafflecopter for the RT gift bag giveaway.
Yes, that'll run for just this week.
Yeah, 7 days. That's all you got.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to take a moment here at the end of the podcast to thank Terry Michaels.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Because she is the one who, at the DSP workshop in 2016 this year, or are we in 17? What the hell?
We're in 17.
So the DSP workshop in 2016, back when this podcast was a wee tot, said, you guys should think about submitting a panel to come to RT and talk about podcasting. She is the whole reason that we took the leap this year to go to RT, and it was fabulous. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Terry.
Yes, thank you very much. We really appreciate all your hard work on this event.
And not to mention all of her hard work and everybody else's, because she is the director of all that programming that went on this week, and that's a big undertaking, and she did a great job with it.
Yes, she's probably going to be resting one day, and then she'll start planning next year's.
No doubt.
Anyway, I think that'll do it for this week. Coming up in episode 83, Brandolin will be back with summertime book recommendations.
Yeah.
We look forward to that.
Absolutely.
That should be good. Okay, guys, until next time, please keep reading, and we'll talk at you next time.
For detailed show notes and the complete episode backlist, go to biggayfictionpodcast.com. New episodes are available every Monday on all major podcast distributors and YouTube. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.